Imagine you have dedicated your entire life to a single pursuit. Not money, not fame, not power, just mystery, just the art. You have poured every drop of your blood and sweat and spirit into something so profound, so deeply human that it became more than a skill. It became an identity. You are the thing you do, and then just when the world finally starts to recognize the mystery, just when your name echoes in the hall of history, your body starts to betray you, quietly, mercilessly, without warning.
Ends now. Bring it on.
Now ask yourself, what do you fight for when you know the end is coming? That is the question at the beating heart of IP Man 4. And if you think this is just another martial art movie where a Chinese grandmaster beats up a room full of Western bad guys, oh my friend, you are in for one of the most emotional, devastating surprise for your life. Welcome back everyone. You are watching the channel where we don't just tell you what happened in the movie. We live it with you. And today we are diving deep, deep, into what might be the most bittersweet, most emotional resonant, most beautifully crafted finale in martial arts cinema history. We are talking about IP Man 4, the conclusion to one of the greatest action film franchise to ever come out of Hong Kong. Now before we go any further, yes, this video contains full spoiler, every scene, every twist, every emotional gut punch. If you haven't seen the movie and want to experience fresh, go with it first. Come back after, I'll be here. But if you are ready to go on this journey with me, if you want to understand not just what this film is about, but what it means, then buckle up because we are about to go somewhere real. This is not just a movie review, this is reopening. IP Man 4 was released on December 20, 2019. In cinemas, we made it its way to international audience in early 2020. Directed by the legendary Wilson Yip, the same man who helmed every entry in his franchise, the film starred Donnie Yen reprising his iconic role as IP Man, the real-life Wing Chun grandmaster who famously taught Bruce Lee. Let's just pause on that for a second. This franchise has been running since 2008, 11 years, 4 films, and somehow Wilson Yip and writer and Mount Wong managed to find fresh emotional territory in every single chapter. That's extraordinarily rare in cinemas. Usually by the fourth installment of anything, you are just going through the monitors, but the finals does not coast. It arrives with intentions, with weight, and with a farewell that generally earns its tears. The supporting cast is stacked. Scott Adkins as an absolute beast in the film of martial art cinema plays Barton Geddes, a United States Marine Corps General Sergeant, who serves as the film's primary antagonist. Donnie Yen returned as Bruce Lee, and yes, getting to see Donnie Yen and Bruce Lee share screen time again is as electric as it sounds. Vijay plays Wan Zhonghu, the head of the Chinese Benevolent Association in San Francisco. Vanda Margrove plays Yoon, a young Chinese American girl whose storyline becomes one of the film's most unexpectedly powerful emotion anchors. And Jim Liu plays IP Ching, IP Man's son, a character who carries the weight of a complicated father-son relationship all the way through to the final frame. The film is set primarily in 1964 San Francisco, a city rolling with racial tension, cultural identity clashes, and the seismic social upheaval of the civil rights era. And that setting is not incidental. Wilson Yip and his team use the American landscape as a mirror, a canvas, a battlefield, sometimes all at once. Now let's talk expectations. By 2019, the IP Man franchise had become a genuine phenomenon. The first film released during the 2008 Beijing Olympics, mind you, captured the world's imagination by blending historical drama, unapologetic nationalism, and extraordinary fight choreography. The sequel builds on that foundation, sending IP Man to Hong Kong, to the boxing world, to confinations with Mike Tyson,
I want you.
and to whole spectrum of advertiser, both physical and ideologic. By the time the final arrived, audience around the world expected two things: incredible martial arts and Donnie Yen doing something emotionally devastating. They got both and then some. The films open not with a fight, not with action. It opens with a funeral. We are the funeral of Ching Wing Sing, IP Man's wife, the woman who has been the silent, steady anchor of his entire life. And as IP Man stands there in dark clothing, surrounded by mourners, surrounded by the remains of his former world, you understand immediately. This movie is about a man preparing to say goodbye, not just to a place, not just to a chapter, but to everything. Donnie Yen's face in that opening sequence is one of the finest pieces of acting in the entire franchise. He doesn't cry, he doesn't break down, he just endures with a quiet dignity that is somehow more more heartbreaking than any tears could ever be. If you lost someone you loved, a parent, a partner, a person who was your whole world, you know exactly what that expressions mean. You have borne it yourself. And then we get the diagnosis. IP Man already grieving goes to see a doctor, and a doctor tells him what many in the audience had been dreading since rumor about the film story began circulating. He has cancer, a cancer of the upper throat, the same cancer that the real IP man died of in real life in 1972. Let that sink in. The filmmakers are not hiding the ending from the every first act. They are telling you this man is going to die. The question is not whether IP man survives, it is what he does with the time he has left. This is extraordinary storytelling. Most action franchise built toward Trump. IP Man built toward something far more complex, acceptance. Now IP Man has a son, IP Ching, and their relationship, which has been strained through the franchise, reaches a critical point here. IP Ching has been caught up in a rebellious teenage behavior. He is getting into fights at school. He's been suspended and the school is threatening expulsion. The principal pulls IP Man aside, make it clear either your son gets his act together or he's out. IP Man, dignified and measured as always, listens but internally resents the conflict. He is the man who has spent his whole life teaching discipline, respect, and the proper application of force, and yet his own son is disciplinary problem. There is a deep irony here, and the film leans into it beautifully. And so, IP Man make a decision. He will travel to San Francisco. He has two reasons. First, to try to obtain a recommendation letter for his son to attend school in America, a fresh start. Second, to visit Bruce Lee, his most famous student who is now living and teaching in the United States. Now, this is crucial. IP Man does not tell his son about the cancer. He bears that weight alone. And his choice, these decisions to protect IP Ching from the truth, even at the cost of their own emotional distance, defines their entire arc in the film. IP Man arrives in San Francisco and the film wastes no time establishing
You
the
leave me no choice! I want you!
racial and cultural tensions of the era. This is 1964 America. The Civil Rights Act has just been signed. Tensions between communities are running high, and for Chinese immigrants in San Francisco, Chinatown, the world outside their community is frequently hostile, condescending, and dangerous. We are introduced to the Chinese Benevolent Association, a community organization that essentially governs Chinatown's social and political life. And its head, it's Van Zong, who played with magnificent pride and dignity by Wu Yu. Wu Yu Fan is a man defined by tradition, by hierarchy, and by almost obsessive commitment to the idea that Chinese people must present a unified, disciplined front of the outside world or risk losing everything they have built. And Van does not like Eichmann, not one bit. Here's why you see, Bruce Lee has been teaching Wing Chun and martial art proudly to non-Chinese students. In Van's view, this is betrayal. Martial arts are the scared heritage of Chinese culture, and teaching them to outsiders dilutes that heritage, invites disrespect, and undermines the community's sense of identity. In Van's worldview, you protect your culture by keeping it contained, controlled, guarded. This conflict between culture preservation through exclusion versus culture sharing and evolution is one of the film's richest thematic veins, and we'll dig into it much more deeply when we get to our themes section. But for now, just understand that IP Man walks into a community divided, and his connection to Bruce Lee immediately marks him as a controversial figure. When IP Man finally meets with Vaughn to ask for the recommendation letter, Vaughn is civil but cold. He agrees to consider it but makes clear that nothing is free. IP Man is famous and Vaughn wants to leverage that fame for the association benefit. There is something almost transactional about Vaughn's generosity, and IP Man sees it immediately through his too dignified to say so directly. Now, let me tell you about the character who absolutely blindsided me the first time I watched this film. I went in expecting to be amazed by Donnie Yen. I was, but the character who broke my heart open was a teenage girl, Yoon Won. Won Zhonghua's daughter, played by the Vanda Margrove. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Vanda Margrave's performance in this film is extraordinary. She plays Yuna as a young Chinese American woman caught between two identities, two impossible sets of expectations. Her father wants her to be traditionally Chinese, disciplined, obedient, proud of her heritage, her classmates, her school environments. Her American life wants her to assimilate, to conform, to shed the parts of herself that make her different. And in 1964, being visibly Chinese in a predominantly white American school as a target. Plain and simple. We watch Yona get built viscously. There is a scene early in the film where she is confronted by white cheerleaders, led by a particularly cruel girl who mock her heritage, her food, her appearance. They grab her lunch, they humiliate her in front of other students, and Yuna, raised to be dignified, raised to never bring shame on her family, doesn't fight back. She adores it because her father has taught her that causing a scene, drawing active attentions, is worse than the humiliation itself. When I saw, when I say this scene hit differently than I expected it to, that's an understatement because Wilson doesn't let you look away. He holds on Yuna's face long enough for you to feel exactly what she's feeling. And it's not just sadness, it's a specific kind of pain. The pain of being told that the cost of your dignity is your silence. IP Man witnessed some of this, and something stares in him. He sees in Yuna's situations a reflection of something universal, the experience of being a stranger in a land that does not fully accept you. He is living that himself in real time. And then there Bruce Lee. Danny Chan's portrait of Bruce Lee has been a point of inflection and debate throughout his franchise. He doesn't do an impersonation. He channels something, the physically, this philosophy, the electric charisma. When Bruce Lee appears on screen in this film, the temperature of every scene he is in goes up 10 degrees. The reunion between IP Man and Bruce Lee is charged with warmth and admiration, but also with the kind of mutual acknowledgement that their time together has passed. Bruce is his own man now. He is touching his development Jid Nodu, his own philosophical martial art, and he is pushing boundaries that even his master might not have anticipated. There is beautiful scene where Bruce Lee takes IP Man to one of his classes where he is teaching a vastly mixed group of students, white, black, Chinese, Latino, and IP Man watches. You can see him processing, not judging, just observing. His expression is unreadable in the best possible way. He is seeing the future of what he had created. Later, the two share a quieter moment. Bruce Lee asks IP Man why he came to America, and IP Man characteristically deflects. He talks about his son. He talks about the school situation. He doesn't mention the cancer because that who IP Man is, a man who carries his burden without burdening others. Bruce Lee perspectives as ever sense that something is off, but he doesn't push. He just sits with his teacher, and that scene, two men sitting together, is comfortable silence. The weight of years between them, might be the most quietly devastating moment in the franchise. Okay, now we need to talk about
This ends now.
Button
Bring it on.
Cadence, played by Scott Adkins, who let me be clear is one of the most legitimately skilled martial arts working in action cinema today. Benton catches as a United States Marine Corps journey surgeons stations at a base near San Francisco. He
You
is
leave me no
arrogant,
choice! I want yield. And all today!
racist, physically imposing, and absolutely convinced that America martial art, especially karate, which the Corps has incorporated into its combat training, is superior to any Chinese martial art. Now here's the broader context. The US military has been debating the merits of different hand-to-hand combat systems. There is a function within the Marine Corps that wants to incorporate Chinese martial arts, especially Wing Chun, into their training program. Colin Firth wait, sorry don't movie. I mean there is a character named Hartman, a Marine officer played by Chris Collins, who genuinely believes in the value of Wing Chun and wants to bring IP Mahan's student in to demonstrate its effectiveness. Gaddis, on the other hand, sees this as an embarrassment. He wants America Marines trained by Americans in American method, and he will go to extraordinary, sometimes violent lengths to prove his point. What makes Gideon interesting as a villain is that Scott Adkins does not play him as a cartoonishly evil. He plays him as a man who genuinely believes in what he's doing, who sees himself as protesting something, even if his methods are repressible. His racism is not casual or thoughtless, it's ideological, and that makes him far more disturbing than a simple bully. There is an early sequence where Giddens essentially runs a gauntlet of challengers, demonstrating his power to the assembled marine. He is brutal, efficient, and spectacular. Scott Adkins moves like something out of a video game cutscene. His kicks and strikes have a mechanical perfection that is both impressive and slightly inhuman, and that's intentional. He is not just a fighter, he is a weapon, a product of a system that has stripped away humanity in the pursuit of dominance. Midway through the first act, the summarizing tension boiled over. Some of some of Gaddy's Marines, young, arrogant, drunk on their own sense of superiority, wander into Chinatown and start causing trouble. They harass residents, they disrespect the space, and when members of the benevolent association try to intervene, things escalate quickly. When Zonghua ends up in a confrontation with Geddes himself, and this is where we get our first serious fight sequence and where the film makes its first major political statement. Van is a skilled martial artist. His Tai Chi is elegant and powerful, but Geddes is a force of nature, and in their encounter, Van holds his own admirably until he doesn't. Geddes wins, and the minor of the victory. The sheer brutality, the contempt, the way he looks at Van afterward tells you everything you need to know about what this film is really about. It's not about one man, it's about a people. It's about a dignity in the face of systematic dehumanization. Van is injured in the confrontation seriously enough that it sidelines him, and this creates a leadership vacuum in the association at exactly the wrong moment. The community needs protection, and the person best poised to provide it is visitor who came seeing a simple letter of recommendation. IP Man, of course, sets up because that's what he does. The middle section of IP Man is where the film's quieter, more emotionally complex work happens. The action sequences are spaced out intentionally. Wilson Chip wants you invested in these people before the storm breaks. One of the film's most unexpectedly touching relationship is the one that develops IP Man and Yuna. They are thrown together by the circumstances. IP Man investigating the community's situation keeps crossing paths with Van's daughter, and gradually, almost impracticably, he takes her under his wing. Not in a formal teaching way at first, it starts with observation. He watches how she carries herself, sees the burden she is walking under, recognizes the signs of something who has been taught to swallow their pain. And then he does something small but transformative. He starts teaching her wing chun. And the training sequence between IP Man and Yuna are some of the most warm heated scene in the entire franchise. There is gentleness in Donnie Yen's performance here. That's the difference from everything we have seen before with Bruce Lee. He was a teacher, stretching his students' potential. With Yuna, he's something closer to a surrogate father figure, not replacing her father, not offering something her fathers can't. Permission to fight back, permission to take up space, permission to be fully herself without apology. And Yuna responds. Vanda Margrave plays the transformation beautifully. You watch confidence growing Yuna, not like a sudden switch being flipped, but like a plant slowly turning toward the light. She doesn't become a warrior overnight. She becomes someone who knows she has the right to defend herself. That's different and it's matter. The bullying situation at Yuna's schools come to head in one of the film's most cathartic sequences. The cheerleader bully, whose contentment for Yuna has been building throughout the film, pushes things too far now. Confrontations on school grounds, and this time Yuna doesn't just endure it. She responds. She uses what IP Man has been teaching
This
her,
ends now. Bring it on.
not to beat anyone up, but to hold her down, to not be moved, to look her tormented in eye without flinching. And the moment that bully realizes she can no longer intimidate Yuna, that shift, that micro change in
Ain't no choice. I
power
want yield.
is something the film captured with tremendous satisfaction. It's not a big fight scene, it does not need to be, because the real victory is not physical, it's psychological. Yuna has learned to occupy her own space. That's the victory. Her father Van Zonghua witnessed this is a distance, and his reaction, complex, conflicted, ultimately moved. It's one of Wu Yui feminist movement in the film. Here is a man who has spent his whole life believing that safety comes from keeping your head down, from not making waves, from controlling how the outside world sees you. And his own daughter has just shown him that there might be another way. The relationship between Van and IP Man has been thawing throughout this section of the film. Slowly, gradually, Van begins to respect a stronger from Hong Kong, not because IP Man lectures him. IP Man almost never lectures anyone, but because IP Man demonstrates over and over again what quietly dignity actually looks like an practice, not submission, not aggression, something more precise than ether. The letter of recommendation. Remember that the whole reason IP Man came to San Francisco in an emotionally loaded scene when finally agrees to write it. And as the parents it to IP Man, something in his manner has changed. The transaction coldness is gone. There is something almost amiable in the way he offers, because at this point the two men has been through something together. They understand each other in way they didn't when IP Man first arrived. IP Man accepts the letter, and then in quieter moment, away from the benevolent associations, away from the political and the posturing, he finally tells someone the truth. He has been cancer. He tells Vaughn, not his son, not Bruce Lee Vaughn. Why Vaughn? I have thought about this is a lot. I think it's because Vaughn is the only person in IP Man's orbit who is potential. Someone without a pre-exciting emotional stack in IP Man's survival. Telling Vaughn the truth does not threaten anyone. It does not force anyone to carry a burden they didn't choose. The IP Man's way of releasing someone of the pressure without burdening the people he loves. Vaughn's response is simple, quiet, he just nods, and that shared silence. Something passes between them, a recognition of morality, mortality of the weight of leadership, of the loneliness that comes with being the person everyone else longs for. It is a scene with almost no dialogue, and it's heartbreaking. Meanwhile, the military subpilot has been boiling toward an explosion.
This ends now.
IP Man
Bring it on.
student, especially a young man named Billy Kwong, has been demonstrating Wing Chun at the Marine Base, partially to build the case of incorporating it into the training program. Billy has been doing well. Kate is insanely frustrated, arranges a bout between Billy and one of the karate protege.
You leave me no choice! I
The
want
fight
you!
is ostensibly a friendly demonstration. Kate is in sorts, it is something big. His fighter goes in with the clear intentions of inflicting real damage, and Billy ends up seriously hurt badly enough that the outcome feels like a deliberate message. IP Man, hearing about this, goes to the base, and the confrontation between IP Man and the American military establishment and where he is simultaneously underestimated as a little old Chinese man, and where he must navigate the politics of a space that does not respect him, is one of the film's most tense not combat sequence. He is patient, he is dignified, he asks for accountability, he does not get it, and that experience of seeking justice through the proper channels and finding those channels deliberately closed deepens the theme of intentional realisms that the film has been building towards. Officer Hartman, the sympathetic marine, he is catch in the middle. He knows that Gideon's did was wrong. He knows that the system is corrupt, but he is also a military man and bounded by the hierarchy. And in military structures, the hierarchy often wins over conscience. This is the theme, but resonates far beyond 1964 or martial arts cinemas. It resonates right now in every in situations where someone has tried to do the right thing and been told that doing the right thing is not worth the desperations. Let me tell you about one of the more dramatically satisfying sequences in the film. A martial art tournament held within the Chinatown community. The benevolent associations to celebrate the showcase and the strength of Chinese martial art and to address the questions of who has authority over those arts in San Francisco. China's community hosts a tournament among real monsters. Multiple styles are represented. The atmosphere is festive but charged with competition. And into his tournament steps well. I don't want to rush past the setup because what Wilson he does with his sequence is interesting. It's not just a spectacular, it's a political act. The tournament is a way for the community to assert its identity, to say, look at what we have, look at what we build, look at what we know. IPman participates not entirely by choice, but because circumstances and the needs of the moment pull him in, and watching him move among the other master men who represent different traditions, different philosophies, different styles is a reminder of what makes Wang Chun and what makes IPman's distinctive. Efficiency, economy of motion, the elimination of everything unnecessary. The choreography in this sequence
This
is
ends now.
extraordinary.
Bring it on.
Yoon Woo Ping, the legendary action choreographer, has worked on his franchise since the beginning, and his fingerprints are all over the every fight scene. But there is something particularly elegant about how IP Man moves in the tournament, especially as the film progresses and you realize that he is frightening through physical pain, through the early efforts of his
You
cancer.
leave me no choice!
Every
I
moment
walk
cost
you
him something,
and fall
and yet
today.
his form never breaks. That's choice, that's dignity. There is a scene midway through the film where IP Ching arrives in San Francisco. He tracked down his father, whatever because he was worried or because he wanted to confront him. It's not entirely clear at first, and the reunion between father and son carries years of unresolved tensions. IP Chang is angry, he feels abandoned, he feels like his father has always cared more about Wing Chun, about his students, about his principals, than about his own family. And there is truth in that accusations. The film does not shy away from it. IP Man has been absent, not maliciously, but genuinely. His dedication to his art, to his philosophy, to his public role has come at a cost of his private ones. The confrontations between them, quite intense, loaded with everything that has not been said over decades, is one of the Jin Liu finest moments. He plays I pitching not a villain or a whiner but as a kind who just wanted his father and often got IP Man the master instead. And then in one of the film, the most important scene, IP Man tells his son about the cancer. The Donnie Yen plays this scene is extraordinary. He does not often it, he does not over dramatize it. He delivers the information the same way he delivers everything, with complete composure. And that composure is the most devastating thing about it because he cannot see eye pitching, searching his father's face for something. He cracks some vulnerabilities, some invitations to confront him, and IP Man won't give him that. Not because he does not love his son, but because this is genuinely who he is. He carries alone. IP pitching's breakdowns. IP Man does not, and that chemistry, one man collapsing with grief while the other holds himself absolutely still, is one of the most powerful father son images I have ever seen in an action film. By the third act, all the threads have converged. Giddis has crossed a line that can no longer be navigated around. His containment of for the Chinese community, for the presence of Chinese martial art, for the idea that anything not American could be worthy of military incorporation. He became something uglier and more violent. There is an act, not a sensation fight, an attack, Marines under guidance, implicit direction, assault member of the Chinese community. The benevolent association space is violated. People are hurt. The message is unmistakable. You do not belong here. You will never belong here. And we will use force to remind you. Well, films this sequence with controlled fury that is most disturbing than any action set price. Because this is not two fighters in a ring. This is a community being terrorized and the camera puts
This ends now. Bring it on.
you inside the terror. Van Zonghua, still recovering from his earlier injury, is present. He cannot fight, he can only watch as the in situations of order and dignity he has built is dismantled by brute force and something in him break. Not his spirits, but a certain illusion he has been carrying.
You leave me no choice!
The
I want you!
illusion that if you keep your head down and follow the rules, the world will leave you alone. The world will not leave you alone. The world does not care who abandoned you have been. And it is in the aftermath of the attack, in the quiet, devastated space where the community is trying to get itself, that IP Man make a decision. He is going to the Marines base. He is going to fight Baton Giddies, not for glory, not for vengeance, for something more essential than either of those things. For witness, for demonstrations, for the simple, irreducible truth that the people of his community has worth, the dignity and a right to defend themselves. Here we are, the moment the entire film has been building toward, and I want to be really precise about why this figure sequence is different from every other final fight in the franchise, including the extraordinary finale against Twister in IP Man 2, including the confrontation with Mike Tyson in IP Man 3. Those fights were about proving something external. This fight is about proving something internal. By the time IP Man walks into the Marines base for the confrontations with Geddes, we know things about him that the Marines in the room don't. We know his legs. We know every movement is costing him something physical. We know he is carrying the weight of his wife's death, his son's grief, a community's suffering, and his own mortality. All of at once. And Geddes does not know any of this. He sees a small Chinese man in his late 50s who has come to make a point. He is prepared to be amused. The fight begins with Gideon's utterly dismissive. He fights the way a man fights when he thinks he is already won. With containment instead of focus, his tricks are designed to humiliate as much as to injure. He talks during the fight, he performs for the Campbell Marines. He wants to make a statement, and IP Man does not react to any of this. He does not get angry, he does not
get rattled, he simply responds. Each strike, each exchange, each moment of contact, he responds with that extraordinary Wing Chun efficiency. Not overpowering, not overwhelming, just presence, precise, immovable. Scott Adkins brings everything he has to this fight, and I mean everything. His kicks are extraordinary, genuinely some of the most spectacular kicking combinations I have ever seen in a live action fight scenes. He is hitting IP Man, he is landing shots, and is different from earlier IP Man fights, where it often felt like the master was untouchable. Here, IP Man takes damage, real damage, he can see it accumulating. There is intention and it's devastating because IP Man keep getting up. Not because he's Superman, not because he's invisible, but because he has been chosen to, because there are people watching, not just the Marines in that room, but in a metaphorical sense. Everyone who has ever been dismissed, underestimated, humiliated, or told they don't belong, he's getting up for all of them. The fight accumulates. Gideon stops being amused and starts being alarmed. He throws everything at the small, sick man in the suit, and the small, sick man in the suit will not fall. The turning points come when IP Man finds the angle. Wing Chun's fundamental principle: don't fight force with force. Find the line of least resistance. Control the center line. Get is enormously powerful, but power directed correctly Here's Vian. The final scene of IP Man 4 are among the most politely because in any action franchise I have ever encountered. IP Man returned to Hong Kong, he has the letter of his son, he accomplishes what he came to do, and now the film shifts into a different register entirely. Slower, softer, sophisticated, with a golden light that feels like late afternoon, like the hour before the day ends. The final exchange between IP Man and IP Chung is not dramatic in the conventional scenes. There is no big emotional speech, there is no critical breakdown. There is just a father and a son sitting together, fine in the same room, not just physically but emotionally, finally present to each other. IP Man tells his son he is proud of him, and Jim's blue face receiving those words is one of the most quietly broken things I have ever seen in cinema. Because you understand that this is a son who has been waiting for those words his entire life, and that the receiving of them finally is both a gift and grief because it comes so close to end. The film closes with text on screen, real text about the real IP man. He taught Wing Chun for the rest of his life. He never fully accepted the formal titles of Grandmaster. He died in October 1972. His student Bruce Lee died in July 1973. Just a month later, and then the screen goes dark, and you are been watching this movie with anything resembling an open heart. You sit with something. This is not quite sadness and not quite beauty, but something that contains both, something that feels like recognition, like this life was lived, this life was real and is mature. Viljip is the not the flashiest director working in action scene. He does not do the thing where the camera pivotates around the fighters in a way they look how cinematic this is. He stays close to the ground, close to the human being in the frame, close to their faces and their discussions, decisions. And the finale, that restrains space in rumors dividends because this is a film that needs you to feel, not just to be wowed. And Jeep trusts the marshals, trust the performance, trust the audience in a way that is incredibly rare. His pacing is deliberate. There are stretches of his film that are genuinely quiet, almost meditative. Some viewers expecting the kinetic energy of an action movie. He found this frustrating. I find it exactly right.
This ends now.
The
Bring it on.
quietness is the point. The spaces between the fight are where the film lies. The great Yuan Wu Ping has choreographed some of most iconic fight sequences in cinema history, from The Matrix to Kill Bill to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. His work in the IP Man franchise have always been disincentive for its grounding
You leave me no
in
choice!
actual martial arts
You.
philosophy. The fighters are visually spectacular, but they make sense within each fighter's styles and word line. In the finale, the choreography has a weight and sequence that earlier films sometimes soften. IP Man get hurt, Vaughn gets seriously hurt, the Marines do real damage. This is not a world where the hero is invisible. It is a world where the hero persists despite being invincible. And that makes every victory, especially the final one, feel earned in a way that invisible horses never can. The standout sequence choreographically is clearly the IP Man get his finals, but I would also highlight the man Gideon's bout earlier in the film, particularly for his elegance. Watching genuine Tai Chi meets aggressive karate is a genuine pleasure, and Yon Whooping stages it with the care for the integrity of both styles that a lesser choreographer would bother with. The visual language of the film uses San Francisco 90s 60s landscape beautifully. The Chinatown interiors warm and golden, the military base could end in situational and grey. The color palette tells you what you are in before the dialogue does. Chinatown is alive, texture human, the Marines base is machine. The contract is deliberate and effective. There is also a visual motif throughout the film of IP Man framed against light, doorways, windows, open spaces that subtly reinforces the theme of a man approaching his ending, moving towards something vast and bright. Kanye Kevi's score for the IP Man franchise is one of the great unsung contributions to the series. His musical language is Eastern influenced, but not in a way that feels tokenistic or gender bonding. It finds genuine emotional restraint that sport to the drama without overwhelming it. In the finale, the score has a particular elegant quality streak that feels like breathing, like someone trying to be carry. There is recurring melodic theme associated with IP Man, especially that appears in its full-fledged form in the final scenes, and by the point its emotional power is considerable. The film's greatest strength is its emotional maturity. Most Master Arts franchise by the fourth installment has abundant complexity in favor of spectacle. IP Man 4 goes the other direction. It deepens, complicated, and ultimately transactions the genre's usual limitations. The performances are outstanding across the board. Donnie Yen is extraordinary. Wu Yui is revelations. Vanda Margrave is genuine discovery. Scott Adkins brings his a game and then some. This is an ensemble that takes the martial seriously and delivers. The thematic context is rich and genuinely engaged with historical reality. Using the civil rights era as a backdrop was not a safe choice. It invites comparisons and complications that is more risk-averse franchise would
This
have
ends now.
avoided.
Bring it on.
The final runs into those complications and for the most part handles them with care. The final fight sequence is exponential, not just an action cinema but as emotional storytelling. Every punch means something. Every time IP Man stands back up, it costs something, means something. That's rare, that's genuinely hard to achieve. The Gideon
Be no choice.
subpilot
I want yield and fall.
conveniently tips into carry captures. The idea of seeing IP Man and his most famous student together in their final cinematic chapter is captivating. And while the scenes they share they are genuinely moving, there is sense that more was possible. The franchise has been cautious about how it handles the Bruce Lee character, and that caution occasionally limits with the film can do. There is also an argument that the resolutions IP Man fights Gideon's loses military incorporations being joined is something too neat. Real systematic resonance does not bend to individuals. How does IP Man stack up against similar Hollywood franchise? The obvious comparison is Rocky, especially Rocky Balboa, the sixth entry in that franchise, where Stallone brought the aging, grieving hero back for one final fight that was more about emotional catharsis than athletic triumph. There are genuine similarities. Both films use a veteran fighter's finals bout as an occasion to explore mortality, legacy, and what it is means to still be who you are when your body is saying otherwise. IP Man is the better film in my view because it resists sentiments more firmly. Rocky Balboa is allowed to be redemptive in a crowd pleasing way. IP Man is not. He wins his fight, but the cancer does not go away. The crowd does not cross for him, he just leaves, and that restraint is what makes him extraordinary. You might also draw comparison to Logan, the 2017 X-Men film that took a beloved action hero and placed him in a story about aging, failure, and mortality. Like IP Man 4, Logan uses genre conventions to tell a story that transcends genders. The emotional territory is similar. A warrior who has outlasted the world he was built for, making one last stand because the people around him need him too. IP Man 4 doesn't have the nihilistic edge of Logan. It's fundamentally more hopeful, more in heart is community and connections. But as example of genre films using their hero's mortality as the real subject of his story, they are both remarkable compared to contemporary American martial art films. And here I am thinking of things like the John Wick franchise or Extractions or even the Raid. IP Man 4 operates in a different register entirely. Those films are interested in the aesthetic and mechanic of violence. IP Man is interested in what violence means, its action as moral philosophy, and the genuinely rare.
You're done!
Here
This
is
ends now.
what I
Bring it
think
on.
IP Man the finale is real as its deepest level about It is about a man who spent his whole life mastering an art, not as performance, not as mean to an end, as an act of genuine devotion. And at the end of his life, having passed that art to the world, through his student and through his legacy, he is able to look at what he's built and say, it is enough, it was worth it, I lived it right.
You
That's
leave me no choice! I
extraordinarily
want
rare
you
as a human
and fall
experience, and
today!
it's even rare as a story. Most stories are about becoming. This one is about having become and now surrendering it, and that surrender graceful, unforced, without brightness. It is the most heroic thing a man does in the entire life. If you haven't seen the whole franchise, if you are only seen piece of only heard about it, I genuinely encourage you to start from the beginning. The first film is masterpiece of its genre. Each successive film builds and complicates and deepens what came before. And when you get to the one, when you see Ip Man walks out of that marine based of late afternoon light, having done what he came to do with no fanfare and no audience, you will understand exactly why it's matter. This is the rare kind of movie that does not just entertain you. It teaches you something about that mystery means, about what grace cost, and what it looks like to be fully human rights up until the end. IP Man lived at the film honors it, and I am glad we got to talk about it. If this video was worth your time, hit the like button. It genuinely helps more than you might think. Subscribe it if you want more long form cinematic deep divers like this ones. Drop a comment below which was your moment in IP Man 4 that hit you the hardest. The diagnosis scenes, the father-son conversations, the final fight. I read every comment. I want to know. Until next time, take care of yourself, watch good movies, and remember the best fight are the one of you have to choose to get for. See you in the next one.